and welcome to what will be the very last Tribe Call of 2020. Woo! I'm stoked. It has been an amazing, fascinating year. I know, that's not the story for everyone, but certainly I've been a student of the industry more so than probably I've ever been, including when I first got into the industry. I think, to watch the inverse of my whole life, I've gone out and tried to get business. And it seems like, since February, I've been trying to figure out where this thing is going, how to understand secondary markets, and how to create, more capacity and bandwidth on the operations side, because it's so much harder right now than to fulfill a loan than it is to originate a loan, which has been the absolute, the absolute inverse of everything I've ever known. So what a year in 2020, the year that Tribe was birthed, and it's been just such a fascinating year. And welcome, Danny. As always, man, great to have you here. I know you had some technical difficulties last time, so it's great to have you back, man. What say you about your 2020?
Yeah, thank you so much, Mark. Yeah, I apologize for leaving you hanging last time, and thanks for holding down the fort here. I think I'm just filled with so much appreciation for everything that this year has offered in terms of learning opportunity. I couldn't agree more, Mark. And really giving the space. I mean, even just us being on this call today is really a result of us, having a little bit of space that got created from being at home and not being on the road as often, et cetera. And it gives us an opportunity to do what we love doing the most in the world, which is sharing ideas with those people that are looking to grow themselves and grow their businesses. So to that end, team, thank you so much for joining us today. Very much appreciate you being here as well. And just as a reminder, what we are looking to do today is really provide you three core areas of value. The first thing we're going to do is cover a current event. Second thing is we're going to talk about a mindset topic. And then the final thing is that we're going to get tactical, and we're going to give you something that you can implement into your life or business today, this week, that we feel will have a meaningful impact as you kind of move forward. And really the theme of the last two sessions, and we're going to continue on today, is business planning. Although today we're going to take a little bit of a softer side of business planning and delve into a little bit of the life planning aspect. So with that, if we can just share our slide deck here, and we'll just jump, Mark, right into that current event. If you want to kick this off, I'll add a little bit of commentary to it.
Yeah, so I've really been paying attention, I think, as everybody has, to the market and the news and what's going to happen. Although I don't digest a lot of news, I definitely have been paying attention to the vaccines and how that is going to affect things. And I looked at the Anderson forecast, which is near and dear to my heart, and something that I follow. And they just put out, their forecast for Q1, and they had a really positive and robust forecast for the economy in general. And so, the basics of what I interpreted were that these vaccines, as people became inoculated and were less fearful about COVID, the economy was really going to have a nice run, and a pretty robust run for a pretty, for at least a few years. And so I thought that it was pretty positive as far as the outlook goes. And I immediately thought, man, a great economy probably means higher interest rates, because, my thinking in that, Danny, and I'd love to get your insight, and I'm certainly no market expert, is that as people have jobs and as the economy gets stronger, I think the consensus is that rates are going to start to rise, because everybody believes that they are too low right now, or the lowest that they've been. No one can argue that. So as the economy can handle more, those rates will start to come up as the Fed stops buying these mortgage-backed securities, which is partially what's making rates so low. And so, that's one interesting thing, and kind of my thoughts on that forecast and just kind of the vaccines coming out. And to that end, the Fed met yesterday, and I think everyone was just kind of watching and waiting and digesting these notes. And the market yesterday was just kind of up and down with every little nuance that was spoken. And I didn't watch it, but I did watch the market, and I saw the rate alerts all day long. And, the the message was basically more of the same. And I feel like, if anything, the market was reacting to what wasn't said rather than what was said. And so I think, Fed chair came out and said, hey, we've got to be honest about inflation. And they haven't seen any movement in inflation, have had a very difficult time doing that. And so, it seems like the consensus is that rates are going to stay low for at least the foreseeable future. And when and how and if we get movement is a huge mystery. So it seems very puzzling. So how can you clean that up for me, Danny? And what are your thoughts?
So Mark, I agree. There's a lot kind of packed into this. And as Tribe members, anybody watching this, really, we know that you're here because you have a commitment to this business, a commitment to growing your expertise and kind of hammering on your craft. So the first thing that I'll say is that I could probably talk for 90 minutes just to unpack what you just said, Mark. However, what I'll invite this group to do is there are more expert voices than myself or Mark in this space. Specifically, a friend of Tribe, Barry Habib, would be who I would reference everybody to, and his commentary in MBS Highway. If you look back through his predictions and analysis, he's extraordinarily accurate, and he does a very good job distilling the information that you need to truly be an expert and then pass the information on to your clients. So that said, I'll do my best to just distill down what I think are the important takeaways from what you just shared, Mark. So the first one is you're absolutely right. When the economy starts doing well, rates are likely to feel pressure from that effort or from that action. And the reason that pressure will be felt is because of all of the action that was taken to stimulate the economy is highly likely to create inflation. And again, this is where I will not do it justice, and I would invite you to look at Barry's commentary. But if you think about a bond investor, which any of the end investors of mortgage-backed securities are investing in that bond, which is a fixed return asset. So they buy a mortgage that returns a rate of, let's say, 3%, and they're expecting to earn that 3% over time. The market forces don't allow them to earn more than 3%. They're committing to a fixed return. However, if the market starts to have inflation, meaning the value of the money that they're earning doesn't allow them to buy the same basket of goods or services, then it really puts the real value of that 3% return slowly over time erodes, and it erodes at a rate equivalent to the rate of inflation. So as an investor, if you want to keep the same rate of return, let's say I want to buy the same basket of goods and services with my money, with the money that I'm earning on a monthly basis, I need to increase the rate of return on my fixed return asset, which means I need to see the yield or the rate that our consumers pay increase to offset that inflation. So we know that when inflation comes back, the rates will rise. So the question becomes not, if rates will go up, but when. And what we're finding is that despite all of the efforts, right? So if we just do simple math here, right? And this by no means is actually how the economy works. And we saw this in 2013 when the Fed bought mortgage-backed securities and there's a macroeconomic concept that I will not bore you all with, which is called the M1 money supply, which is basically the total quantity of dollars in the market. So if you think about inflation as a function of supply demand for dollars, if there's twice as many dollars in the market, you'd expect every dollar to be half as valuable. But that's not what actually happened when we saw this event happen back in 2013. So now we're going in and we're kind of taking another bite at the apple, having quantitative easing, which is the act of the Fed infusing capital into the economy in the form of purchases of mortgage-backed securities. They're doing it at another kind of level that has been never seen before in 2013, never seen before again. And so we'll see if we see the same reaction in the macro economy as we did back then, which was not a lot of movement, right? Since then, we've seen steadily sideways interest rates. And if we continue to see that again, all predictions are that 2021 is going to be a fantastic year for the mortgage industry, maybe not quite as good as 2020 from a margin perspective, because we've had the opportunity to bring new people into the industry from a capacity standpoint. But with the Fed continuing to buy, right? Adding to that demand side of the equation, meaning that rates can stay low because there's people willing to buy at those low rates in the form of the federal government, or the Federal Reserve, I should say. And there's really no sign right now of inflation coming to the forefront. Expecting sideways movement, maybe, knock on wood, even a slightly lowering of interest rates over time as some of the margin that's been built into the market starts to drain away and we kind of get to kind of more normal levels. The consumers might experience a little bit lower interest rates. So all that is to say, more to come as this evolves. This is something that all of you should be keeping a very close finger on the pulse of, because it has a dramatic impact on your business building, on your team building, and on your client experience. So definitely keep yourself educated around this. Learn some of the terminology that it's going to allow you to explain to your clients what's happening. Because when rates start to come back, the movement starts to happen upward. In the past, if we look at the times where rates have gone down, they typically drift down slowly, but they go up quickly. So we need to be prepared for, and our businesses kind of insulated against that. And the things that we talk about in part of our tribe, mantra, tribe coaching, is really about how to winterize your business and keep yourself from being subject to the ebbs and flows, because you have such a incredible client experience, such a tight referral network, that you're not a victim to the circumstances that are out of your control.
Yeah. And I'm going to go just one step further, simplify all that and say, hey, rates are going to stay pretty low in the near term. As the economy starts to recover and you see unemployment go down, you're probably going to start to see interest rates go up. And to simplify that to a client, you just say, hey, rates are low right now because the economy is struggling. When the economy is booming, rates typically are going to rise as well. And so don't try to time the market. Let's harvest these savings and get in. Next year, you're probably going to see less refis, still a booming purchase market. So focus on that purchase market. Really try to capitalize while you can and educate consumers who really want to time the market. And I think that you'll be in great shape if you do that. To Danny's point, really winterizing your business. Cool. So let's move on to the mindset piece. An agent said to me as we were doing our Wheel of Life, which I touched on last week and we'll go into more in depth, but I love doing this exercise with realtors. I've been doing it for since 2010 when I did it for the first time in another coaching group. And she was like, I just hate that word gratitude. It's getting old. Everyone says it. And I started thinking about, man, I really use gratitude as a compass when I'm off balance and I'm off and I'm not in my equilibrium. I use that really to get grounded. I think it's the simplest way. If I can authentically get there, and I'm going to be vulnerable and just say there's a lot of times where I'm faking it and I'm doing my best to get to that place where I truly am feeling grateful. Because if you are in that space, there's not a better space, in my opinion. It's just really a good spot to be. And so I'm constantly trying to get there when I'm off. Like that's just, my go-to. When I'm off and I'm not feeling right and I'm not, I'm depressed or I'm, anxious or whatever, I try to get myself to go to this place. It's like a home base for me. So when she said that, very established realtor, very good friend, and it almost seemed like, I'm constantly trying to find ways to be grateful. I was like, man, is there really too much, expression of that? And I really started to psychoanalyze. And for me, the answer is definitely no. I do not think that if it's authentic, there's ever too much of that. But I do think in this industry, what we've heard a lot is, hey, be grateful. Even though we have all these struggles, look, it's the best year of your life. You're making more income. You have a job when so many people don't. And, I think we've said it in these talks before. It's really hard to stay in it when you're not feeling it, because it is a lot of work right now. We are definitely like, it feels like walking through quicksand and just trying to get through it and keep going every single day. That on top of being quarantined and all the other challenges, homeschooling that people are going through, makes it pretty difficult, to stay in that spot.
And Mark, so here's what I would like to offer to this group. And you know me well, and the audience here that will join us consistently is going to learn this about me very quickly. But I am a nerd in every sense of the word, and I go very deep down a rabbit hole when I get something that interests me. And the idea of gratitude and gratefulness is one of those things that I've done some work to research and understand for myself, because I really like to know why things work when they work. And what I will offer to this group is a concept here that gratitude is the opposite of fear. And so, and what you, and this is something you can research independently, but inside of your brain, it is impossible to be afraid when you're truly authentically in gratitude. So I think, Mark, what you were describing, right, for yourself, and I think this is just a great validation of that, of that discovery and research, is that those times where you're feeling anxious, frustrated, those negative emotions, below the line activity, that the places where our brain goes to when we are feeling overwhelmed, that the root of all of that is fear, right? Fear of the unknown, fear of messing up, of being judged, of being rejected, whatever those things are, failure. That fear drives us to non-productive activity, right? Where our minds are just in a loop where we're not creating solutions.
Yeah, I mean, you're so on point, right? Because just take this one example. Here I am, we're doing this activity together, and that one comment, for me, I was scared I wasn't going to have this person's approval, because maybe I had said that I was grateful too much, and it was just like diluted and a buzzword. So I got all in my head about, am I pleasing this person, or do they think ill of me? So, I mean, to your point, and I immediately went to a bad place. So continue. I didn't mean to interrupt, but it's very on point.
So when we say there's never too much gratitude, right? You can never have too much gratitude. Another way to say that is that, it is very rare that there is a place for fear in your life and business. There are areas where you should be concerned and you should be thoughtful, and there's times for caution, but truly afraid, right? There's that prevents solution making. It prevents progress. And when you move to gratitude and you get curious about gratitude, that is that space where you'll tend to open up to new possibilities. Another mindset offering that we gave a couple of sessions ago was curious, not furious. That this is an area when you start to explore gratitude in your life and the things that you should are and should be grateful for. You start to connect dots, or I should say, I start to connect dots when I look at, I'm grateful for, my family, right? And that's, that surface level answer, right? That might be, less authentic, but when I actually dig deeper into that, why am I grateful for my family? What's the depth of that? And I'm grateful to be included. I'm grateful to have people that love me unconditionally, right? I'm grateful to have a role in that family that's useful, right? And adds value. And if I think about my team in work, right? I'm grateful for them, but I'm grateful for them for the same reasons, right? They give me a purpose. We're doing worthy work together, work that has a meaning, right? That adds value to others and brings value to their lives. So when we say never too much gratitude, right? The depth in which you can find things to be grateful for, especially during this time when there's, so many people that have had their cheese moved, right, during this craziness.
Love that. That's such a great analogy. Yeah.
I really think that this is a time for us to reflect. Hopefully those watching this, even in either before or after the holidays, I should say, that we're in, that they'll have spent time with their family or intend to. That you can really unwind and give yourself some freedom and permission to reflect back on this year and really see it for what it is, which was an awesome opportunity, an opportunity for personal and professional growth.
Yeah, and in that growth and that discomfort, that's where you grow and you get to the next level. And I think I started saying, I've been in this business and I'm a better student. I have better understanding of the secondary market. I have better understanding, the markets in general and how that works because of everything all the empowering that we had to do to either loan officers that work alongside me or the families. And, that's just one area where if I look back, I've grown and I'm a better advocate to my clients because of that, right there. I guarantee if you look at your life and you look at your arc over this year, there's going to be places where you can certainly, if you're thinking about it, find places that you've grown, and you've got a lot to be thankful for all of the stuff that happened. Certainly low rates have produced a huge bounty and a lot of headaches, right? But I think we, in general, have had an amazing year, and there are a lot of people who haven't. And some of you won't be able to visit families this year because of all of the COVID restrictions. And there's a lot of places where you can get down, and there's a lot of reasons to be down. But I think if you can keep yourself on the gratitude, you practice empathy with those people that are struggling, especially at the holidays. It can be tough. There's a lot of family. I think about family and how tough it can be. It's also certainly great, but I just think it's I would like all of you to find ways to give if you've had an amazing year, because that's one of the places where if you're truly in an active service, it is impossible to be fearful. Like Danny said, you're going to be in gratitude. You're going to feel good about what you're doing, and be empathetic with you're there. Practice being grateful. Know that you've had a great year. Everyone's watching you. They know you've had a great year. And so act like it. Conduct yourself that way. Stay on the positive side of the fence. And I promise you, it's going to be a much more rich time with your family, and you deserve it. You guys have all worked very hard. You've made a lot of sacrifice, and you can never be too much gratitude. I don't know how else to say it.
Last thing on this topic before we move on to the the action step for this session is when you're looking for ways to give, I would like to offer you a consideration for tactical gifting of your team. One of the things that definitely made a massive difference for me over the course of my career was when those were willing to invest in my professional development. Those of you that are part of this tribe community, you are already investing in yourself. Even just this investment of time, investment in professional coaching and guidance, right, are things that we are, as mortgage professionals often seeking. Our team members may not have that same lean, or they might just not know where to start. And early on in my career, I had mentors that actually sponsored me to get coaching, and that was one of the gifts I was given over time. And so I would highly recommend considering whether or not your loan officer assistant, your processor, your disclosure person might benefit from any sort of a professional development type of course, and ask them, right? Create a budget, $500, $750, $1,000 per employee on your team, and just ask them, what skill are you looking to, what muscle are you looking to develop for 2021 to be your best self, and to enjoy your life and your career more fully. And they might say, hey, I want a time management class, or I want to learn how to meditate, or whatever that answer is. Really consider that as a way to gift them, because that's a gift that'll pay dividends for your business as well.
Yeah, and one thing that came up for me while you're saying that is it doesn't need to be monetary either. It can be your time. A lot of your people, you think about really going through this exercise we're going to go through today with your processor. Dedicating your time and your thought and your love and your appreciation for that person can a lot of times go much further than any monetary gift that you can give. And so it doesn't always have to be monetary. Really invest in those people, and I promise you it will pay off in dividends.
So Mark, This just came up for me, and this is probably something that we could talk about as a completely different mindset offering to the group at another time. But one of the things that I have discovered, and it actually came from one of my current coaches, is that one of the greatest gifts you can give someone is your presence. And said differently, or with kind of more of a tactical lean, all any of us want to be in life is seen and heard, right? To feel part of something and to have our true selves, appreciated by those that we respect and have, and place value in, right? That we kind of put credibility around. And so that offering that I gave was really in the same vein as what you just shared, is, inviting them to say what their best self would look like, and then making a personal investment. And my suggestion was financial, into that best self that they see, that they want to manifest. You're saying, hey, it might just be time. I could not agree with that more, but really focusing on the end result, which is, that is an individual person that just wants, they just want to be fed and watered a little bit, right? And then they'll bloom. And I think that's a fantastic takeaway for this group to get.
Totally. Couldn't agree more. And I think about the examples in my own life, and it's very true. I think for all of us. We touched on this a little bit last week, just skim the surface of this, but as you're all starting to do business plans, a lot of your managers are asking you for your business plan. We went through how everyone kind of backs into, the monetary side, but very few people are going into all of these different areas of your life and really taking inventory of where you're at, And so today, while I described this and told you to go and make a couple of goals in each of these categories, we're going to really break it down. Danny and I have done this exercise several times. I've been doing it religiously for years and years and years. So we're going to show you how to go through this, the process that we actually go through. And our hope is that not only will you do this for yourself, it will take you not long at all to do, but also that you'll share it and pay it forward with other people. It's great to do. It's mandatory with my team. We do it every single year, every single person. I do it with realtors. I do it with my friends and family. So it's really just a really great exercise. And I think when the whole world in the business community is asking about your income goals, it's really important to stay balanced and create goals in every area of your life, so that, again, we are working to live. We are not living to work.
So team, this is going to be a great time for you to start taking notes if you haven't been taking notes already. So a couple of takeaways here that we want you to get. First is, this is something that you'll do consistently, this exercise that we're going to go and walk through with you. And you're going to want to do it a minimum of once a year, but the actual recommended is every 6 months. So you can think of it as, I think of it as almost like project management. So you're essentially going to be creating a sprint of your life, and you're going to create action items that are in 6-month chunks that you're going to be executing, and you're going to be inviting those in your life that you share this exercise with to execute over that 6-month time frame. And then you're going to revisit every 6 months, and you're going to do a look back and say, what did I accomplish that I wrote down? And then you're going to set new goals for the following 6 months. And just imagine it. And I can share personally that every time I've done this exercise, it has made a dramatic impact, meaning that the rate at which I executed on all 7 areas of life far exceeded anything that I would have perceived to be possible without this. But just imagine every 6 months, you just got 5% better, right? And just imagine what a 5-year run of that, a 10-year run of intentional work in these 7 areas of your life would look like. And so I invite you to have that in your mind as we're walking through this. We're going to go through this step-by-step tactically, so that you can really then share this back with your team. And what I'll say is that the 3-page document that we're going to share, we took some screenshots of to add to this presentation. If you'd like us to send you a copy, you can email either Mark or myself at mark@tribecoaching.com or danny@tribecoaching.com, and we'll make sure that you get a copy. What's that?
Two Eyes in Tribe.
Two Eyes in Tribe. Yes, thank you. All right, so let's kick it off and actually go through the worksheet.
All right, so the first thing that you're going to do is, whether you're facilitating this or doing it yourself, is just go through each area of your life. So we'll start with money, and we're going to identify two frustrations. So one of the frustrations I can think of that I had, it's very vivid to me because it stung, was there was a business opportunity that was brought to me in 2019, and I did not have enough liquid savings to feel comfortable making that investment. So one frustration I had around money was that I did not have enough liquid savings, and I couldn't liquidate in enough time to take advantage of the opportunity, and the opportunity passed me by, and I very much regretted that. And so, that was a frustration that I had around money. There's also been times where I just said, man, I'm not making enough. I was resentful because I felt like I was being underpaid in my situation. I've had times where I said, hey, I'm not a good steward of money. I don't know where my money's going. I know that I could be better in that. So those are all examples of, frustrations around money. So you're just going to list out two, and it's mandatory that you do two, not three, not one, but that you have two frustrations around money in your life. And you just identify the basic two things. The number one thing from this whole exercise that I want you to take away, if you're on this call, you're likely a coaching person. You're into personal growth. You want to get better. You're like me. You're like Danny. You invest in yourself, right? A lot of us, when we're given exercises like this, especially in a coaching forum, we're very programmed and we don't even know it. We'll just write things down, and it's our canned answer. We're not trying to be canned, right? But we're just writing things down to go through the motions because we've been to 950,000 different coaching things, and that's just automatically what we do. The most important thing for me, for you, is to be brutally honest with yourself and really think about your life as it pertains to money. And what is it that you're frustrated with? Especially, I do this a lot in groups, and a lot of times I'll just conform to what everybody's doing. So the main thing is to take inventory and really identify a couple of different frustrations when it comes to money. And after you've done that, in the box to the right where it says rate 1 through 10, being terrible and 10 best, how would you rate your life as it pertains to money? So if you're feeling really good about money, you might be an 8, a 9, a 10. If you're really not happy with where you're at up until now, it might be a 1, a 2, a 3. If you're neutral, it's going to be a 5. And you would just place that number in that box. Danny, anything you would add?
No. So I think there's a couple of things that I would add. So the first one is that I recommend before you facilitate a group, which I highly recommend that you do facilitate your team or your realtor partners, referral partners, do this yourself just to make sure that you're prepared to kind of go through the exercise. It does typically take about an hour to get through, all of the steps of it. And when you're facilitating, to just carry on Mark's point about not having a canned answer, you're going to want to be really vulnerable and authentic with yourself when you're doing it alone. And then if you're facilitating a group around this, the more authentic and vulnerable your answers in these boxes, the more permission the group that you're facilitating will have to put authentic answers in these boxes for themselves. But if you set the bumpers, right, of how that event's going to go, and if you go extreme in your vulnerability and openness about your money, your work, yourself, then they're never going to go past you, right, when you're facilitating that group. So you're going to be able to set those boundaries for them. So the more space you give them, the more authentic answers you're going to get. And along the lines of facilitation is really just the power move here, especially with your referral partners, because they're, realtors, don't typically have the same, not always, but don't typically have the same networks of business planning and coaching that we as mortgage professionals do. And what I found in my business, and I know this is true for you as well, Mark, is that there's a huge need and desire for coaching, business planning. Many realtors in particular didn't go to school to be an entrepreneur. They didn't go to school to be a business owner. And here they are, staring down what can be a very, lucrative business with employees, et cetera. And so having guidance from us it can be a very powerful trust building tool that allows you to authentically say to them, this is why you pick me over the, internet lender or the person down the street. And then the other thing that I'll share, because this is something that was important for me to get my head around, is that when you get to the spirituality box, this doesn't just apply to religion, right? This applies to any sort of way in which you create space in your mind, right? Whether it's yoga or meditation or whatever spiritual connection, right? Human connection or extra human connection, whatever that means for you, that's what you would put in the spirituality box. You don't have to, I was raised Catholic. So at first when I got to this box, I was like, I'm not really practicing in the same way anymore. So, am I a one in spirituality? But then I realized that I had evolved a different view of connection. And I then put into the box the things that were meaningful for me in that area.
I love it, man. And so let's talk about, some of you might be thinking about, man, I no way could I facilitate this. And I certainly don't know how to approach my realtors about it. I'd like to offer to any of you that are out there that want to go through this exercise for free, zero cost. We can set up a call. I will facilitate this. I'll do it myself again alongside you so that you can see exactly how we go through this. And we can go through it together, and also provide you some scripting on how it is, based on how you feel that you approach people. So if you're feeling super nervous and not brave, and you just want to test the waters around what Danny has said, we feel very comfortable going after and coaching them. And we feel very strong. There was a time in my life when I was insecure about doing that. So, my insecure script would be like, hey, I found this super helpful, Danny. I would like to go through it. I would really love to have a partner. I want to make these 14 goals for myself. Have you done goals this year? And is it something you're interested in? Right? That's my insecure script. It's much different than like, Danny, this is life-changing. You need to be there. Clear your schedule. I know you're not doing this on your own. It's absolutely something that you need to do. Make time to make this happen. Can I count on you to be there? Right? That's my secure script. So I've evolved from when I first started doing this to today, but that's how you might approach different realtors. Secondly, when you're facilitating this in a group, like Danny said, if you're going to put something out there, it gives everybody else the license to then go after it as well. But you also want to make sure that people feel comfortable sharing and aren't feeling, judged. So I would recommend doing super small groups at first, and then maybe building. And actually, there's more power in small groups. I used to invite a bunch of realtors in a room, and the other realtor didn't know the other realtor, even though they knew me. And then when I started going to coffee shops and just doing it with individual groups, people would open up a lot more when I opened up, because of there's more trust. I think if I tended, success at an event was how many people I got there, right? And with this, it's how many groups can I do it with? I'll do it with my BNI group. I'll do it with 6 different groups of realtors. I have some friends that are calling me saying, hey, can we go to coffee and do this? I remember last year, it was so impactful. So I might do this thing 10, 12 times, at this time with my employees. So I've got a lot of different groups that I do. But from a business sense, even though I'm not expecting this from this at all, I'm genuinely not. It's just truly so impactful me that I want to share it with other people. But man, what a great way to come out in January. And right now you might not be thinking about that because you have so much business. But when purchase business is key, really caring about someone, going back to what Danny just said in the mindset, really caring about someone, going deep, take time to help them go through this process is much more valuable than splitting their lead costs or any of that other stuff that's constantly asked of. So I would invite you, to be brave and just go buddy up with someone, do it with them until you feel super comfortable and start facilitating in groups. But on this page, you want to just basically go through, and you don't want anyone to go ahead. So you want the group to stay there. And when people share, right? So this is the other part. Like, I'll stop and I'll say, hey, here's what I'm worried about with money. I'm just not making enough to hit my retirement goals as early as I want to. Like, what are some frustrations of anybody that feels comfortable? And people will start to share their frustrations. I've literally picked up some of the best ideas in my life that have, one area that's really helped me is my marriage, and what other different people have shared with me in love life, and just ideas to keep your marriage fresh has been amazing. And so the more people share and feel comfortable sharing, not only is it great because you're getting deep with people right away, but it also is a great way to switch things up in your own life. Like, great workouts have come up, great things in every area of your life. Anything you add there, Dan?
No, well, I'll just tie this off for the last step. I think we touched on, and hopefully all these areas are pretty intuitive, right? Work is you're about how you're showing up in your business or how your business is structured. And really that you can get creative around that. Things that I've touched on in self is certain health goals will typically fall into that for me. Friends almost always has been not spending enough time with them. However, I have had instances where when I've done this wheel, I've recognized that, for example, and this is where vulnerability came in, there were friends in my life that were no longer, serving me in the way, in terms of the relationship that I had with them wasn't allowing me or them to grow in the way we wanted to. And so those are things that we discovered. Family, I think, is pretty intuitive, as is love life. And it's really important to be as accurate as you can, obviously with little to no context, right? This is self-assessment. When you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10 here, to really be as honest with yourself as you can, right? In terms of, and this is you measuring yourself against your best self, not you measuring yourself against any other person except that version of yourself that you want to be.
Yeah, I think that part's really important. And for work, for me, frustrations have been like where I sit in the office to, hey, I just have not been able to fully implement my CRM. So, it could be a number of things. And again, like Danny said, it will start to be pretty hard not to compare yourself to other people in the room. But remember, this is you, right? So if you're only making $50,000 and you're in the room with someone that's making $1 million, do not compare yourself to that person. Like, you're in a different spot on your journey. And I think if you start to compare, it defeats the purpose. This is just to analyze where you're at so that you've got a baseline to get better.
Perfect. And then, so you get the number, you get the 2 exactly, and no fewer than 2 in each box. You put the 1 through 10 in each box here. And then you pick from this list, if you could only do one of the 14 things over the next 6 months, you write down, or if you can only address one of these problems, you're not actually creating action items yet. You can only address one frustration, you would put that then down in the bottom. Then the next step is pretty straightforward. So there's 10 hash marks on this wheel and essentially all you do is
you show your cursor, Danny?
What's that?
Can you? Yeah. Go with your cursor. There you go.
Yeah. You have the numbers here. So let's say this was 6. You'd go here to money, and you go from the center up 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then you just mark this hash mark here with an X or a circle. Just mark it, and then you do the same thing for all the others. Work, you put your number, and then you go all the way around. And then once you have all 7 dots or X's that are there, you then just draw a line between all the dots. And if you're like me, you're going to find out this is where you get that moment of clarity where you're like, oh, I am way out of balance. My family or myself or my spirituality is at a 3. And so, or my love life's at a 2, and money's at a 6 and work's at a 7. And you draw these lines and you find out that this wheel would not roll. And so then you basically, once you look at that wheel, hopefully you will have one of those aha moments where you say, okay, this is where I need to focus. And I'm gonna use a kind of a silly analogy here, and also make a movie recommendation. If any of you haven't watched the 1980s Arnold Schwarzenegger documentary called Pumping Iron, it's one of the gems, cinematographical genius. One of the things that Arnold says as he's leading up to his, I don't know if it's his third, fourth win as Mr. Universe or whatever it is that every morning he stands in front of a mirror and he looks at his muscles and he says, that's the one I need to work on, right? And that's the one I'm going to focus on today. He doesn't try to do the whole job all at once. He does one day at a time. And so that's what I picture in my head when I think about this visualization of the wheel, because this is just a graphical representation of where I'm at relative to my 10 out of 10 self. And I can then see this is my weakest muscle. It's family, it's love life, whatever that is, friends or self. In my case, that's usually this bottom area of the wheel that I'm getting crushed. And then you can get your aha from that. Anything you'd like to add to that, Mark?
Yeah, I think, one of my mentors asked me to think about importance one time. And I remember I was like super, in work and money, but my family and my love life were so low. And he was like, well, what's more important, the work or the money, or your family and your love life, right? And so one of the ahas that people often have here is that the things that are most important are the lowest on the wheel, are the flat part of the wheel. And, it really can be a wake-up call of what to work on, right? And so when I look at this, the same exact thing that Danny said about Arnold, I love that visualization. It's like, man, that's what I need to work on. And don't judge, just get after it, right? Like this is you doing an assessment and being aware of it. And that's what we're trying to give you, just a super simple tool to look at your life every 6 months and say, where am I at? We want you to live happy, rich, amazing lives. And this is just one of the simplest things that you can do if you actually execute on it, that will drastically help you, both with realizing where you need to be and getting a plan together to kind of execute and go after that.
Mark, I'm going to call an audible here, and I'm going to offer a version, a couple of modified versions of what you can do in this space for yourself with this sheet. So definitely execute, especially your first time around, exactly as instructed. But another way that you can approach this is by taking the 7 things and ranking them 1 through 7. So you have your ranking of yourself in each of them, but rank. So the one thing that was shared with me, early on in my career is that if you really want to know what's important to somebody, you look at where they spend their time and their money, right? And where they're spending their time and their money is truly where they're creating prioritization. So the first thing to do in this modified analysis is, to your point, Mark, is to just take all 7 of these and rank them 1 through 7 in importance, right? And, for me, it would be
family number 1.
Yeah, clearly, right? You go down this list and, really doing an honest assessment. Certainly family for me would be number 1. But then do a assessment of time and money spent, right? Relative to your family, are you spending more time and money in your work, right? Are you spending more time and money focusing on your investment accounts and your 401k, et cetera? And what I found when I did that modified version of this exercise is that I was even more out of balance than this wheel suggested. Because when I actually ranked where I was spending my time and money relative to what was truly important to me in a self-assessment, I was way off. And then the next thing to do, modified version of this, is take that same assessment and fast forward 40 years from now and try to future cast yourself 40 years in the future. And then ask yourself, what would be my prioritization 40 years from now, right? Would it be different than it is today? Or whatever span of time, 60, 100 years from now, right? 100 years from now, I'm going to be dead most likely, unless I'm mostly robot. But if that's the case, what should have been the most important thing to me while I was alive, right? And it probably wasn't work and money. And so, not to say that those aren't things that are going to fuel our rich enjoyment of our friends and family and ourselves. We can't ignore them. That's why we're here, right? This is a personal and professional coaching platform. But I think that just coming to awareness around that can be really powerful. It was for me.
Man, that's amazing. I love the tip of fast forwarding, 40 years. So let's go to the final page here. We've got 10 minutes. So this is kind of the payload and where everything pays off. But basically, once you've identified those frustrations, you see on the wheel of life your balance after you've plotted out those dots to see what your wheel, or in my case, like a star, it looks nothing like a wheel a lot of times. The next thing you're going to want to do is set goals. And we talked in our last session exactly how to make SMART goals, right? Things that are specific, measurable, achievable, relatable, and timely. I might have gotten that R.
Relevant.
What is it? Relevant. Sorry. But
and
so,
time restricted.
And yeah, in money, if I said that I didn't have enough liquid savings, what a lot of people will do, and this is important if you're facilitating as well as doing, you might put here, save more money or some version of that. And what I spend most of my time with when I'm facilitating is listening to people's goals and saying, I like that, you're on the right track, but what I would say is save 10% of my paycheck every single month, or send X amount of dollars to my financial planner every month, or, so I'm now making it, and that on this page is all I do from a facilitation standpoint, is take general things that people want to do and help them crystallize a plan of how they can make that specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, and time restrictive, right? So Danny said, hey, just make this all for 6 months. And I sometimes will come out and do an even shorter version, like, hey, by this time, I'll just fill out every single one of these so that I've got goals in a shorter time frame. I go a little crazy, but I'm typically doing this for the year, right? And this time next year, it's part of my business planning, right? I do this all again, and it helps me from business, but it's like a religion. It's just like, I just do this now, right? So with money, you're going to want to make, again, 2 suggestions here. And this is where it's really important to get people feeling very safe so that they'll start to share. Because the more ideas that come out, the more it helps everybody. And that's what tribe coaching is all about. Like, we want this tribal knowledge. We want everyone to share. There's no ego here. And the more people share ideas, period, across the industry, the better we're all going to be. And so this is really an exercise that's in alignment with our fundamental core values.
Yeah, that's well said, Mark. And really, first, again, doing this for yourself before you facilitate it is going to be key. And then you'll find, and I have done this exercise probably a dozen times personally, and every time I still mess this up. So give yourself some grace, right? You'll look back and go, I'll say, I want to have more family meetings, right? And I'll say, no, that's not the right way to frame this. It's, I'm going to meet, at least 2 times a month, and we're going to have a structured family meeting at least 2 times a month on Sunday. And so extraordinarily specific, and time restricted. And
you've done a good job of that, because Jackie has told me about family meetings. So, I think you've done a really good job, implementing a lot of these things. But even if you don't, right, guys, worst case scenario, you don't implement, you don't make your goals specific, you just come through here and you say, save more money, make more money, move my office, get the courage up to ask for a raise at work. I'd really like to work out twice a week. I'd really like to start eating healthier. I want to plan one trip with my friends. I want, none of that specific measurable. But if you just go through and you write down 14 goals for your life, it's more than probably, I'm making statistics up, 90% of the people are going to do. And if you just write it down and put it someplace where you will see it once in a while, It will amaze you when you look back and you see how many of these things you actually did just because you wrote it down, even if they aren't specific. So that's not what we're encouraging you to do. But I am encouraging these 3 pieces of paper have been life-changing for me. They have made such a big difference. They have been so impactful. And the number one question that I get is, Mark, what advice would you give? And how did you get there? And which are great, flattering comments. But like, it's the simple stuff, just like this form. And, maybe there's 10 or 20 of these little things that I've done over and over and over and over. But this is one of those things where it's like, if you just are super honest and you actually do it, it will make a difference. Oh, it sounds like Danny might be having a little bit of a technical issue on his end. You're cutting out a little bit, bud.
How's that?
It's better, I think.
Okay, so I'll conclude sharing what I to be power I learned from you. This class for yourself, and especially invest $25 on Amazon, get yourself a laminator and print this page, laminate the page, and have everybody put it up on their desk, in their cubicle, at their home office, and working remote, and just have it in your face every single day. One thing I did was only that, but I took what my priority goal was, the one at the bottom, and I actually wrote it on the mirror in my bathroom in a dry erase marker. And I said, I'm going to do this by this time. And so every day I woke up, brushing my teeth, I'm looking at my goal, right? And it's staring me right in the face. So writing it down, keeping it present for you so that you can't hide from the version of yourself you committed to becoming. That has, for me, been a really powerful tool to make sure this, ultimately got implemented. And so I actually skipped ahead here, which is to say that I talked about that most important goal. Again, same tactic as you would use for the first page, which was about identifying out of the 14 items that you're going to list here, if you were only to do one of them, which is the one that is a non-negotiable for you, and then writing that down at the bottom and identifying kind of why that one's important to you.
I love it, man. I really hope that we brought some value. And we'd love to hear from you. If you decide to do this on your own, if you want to schedule a meeting where we go through this together, we'll put something together. If you want a copy of the form, drop an email to us. Just to recap, today we talked about the Fed meeting, inflation rates, where things are headed, probably more sideways movement. Again, kind of the same message. Keep on the purchase business. It's going to be very, very important. Mindset. You can never have too much gratitude. It's a great place to go anytime you're feeling off center. Just do what you can to get into an authentic place of gratitude. And lastly, a very simple 3-page document that is easy to implement that will help you with your life. If you do nothing, just take a run at this thing, spend an hour, put 14 goals together for yourself for next year that have nothing to do with your income. But I promise it will help you with your income and your business as well. We hope that we provided value and that it's worth your time to continue to show up here. We're so blessed to have all of you with us on this journey. We love the tribe for sure. Danny, anything you want to say?
Only an invitation to our first session of 2021. We'll have it on January 7th, and we're going to be talking through for the first quarter of 2021. These sessions are going to be extraordinarily tactical. So while we'll still share current event mindset, our intention going forward is to give you very meaty content to kind of touch on. And so what we're going to introduce on the 7th is what we consider to be the 10 levels of mortgage mastery and the pillars of your business that will then influence kind of where you're at in that journey. And as part of the Tribe Coaching platform, we've identified, level 1 through 10, what that looks like for an originator, and we've kind of quantified that in a way that we feel is pretty meaningful, and the contributing fundamental skill sets that you need to get to level 10. So we'll introduce those concepts on the 7th, and then we'll look forward over the course of the first quarter to really share tactically how you kind of build on each of those pillars. And we're looking forward to having you there.
For sure. We hope you have a great Hanukkah, Christmas, whatever you celebrate. Be present with your family. Thank you so much for an amazing year. You guys have definitely filled our cup, and we appreciate you. Happy New Year. Cheers.
Cheers, everyone.